I recently traveled to Jersey City to complete a tour of northern New Jersey, and I found myself lost in thought, sitting on a bench in Liberty State Park. I stayed a while, thinking about the two islands in the Hudson Bay, adjacent to Liberty State Park. That's Ellis Island and Liberty Island. I was thinking about the immigrant journey to America, which in theory is my own journey. Being born in the Dominican Republic and coming to the States at 5 years old. I kept staring at the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island, and the significance of this territory, or the bizarre geographic borders of New York and New Jersey on Ellis Island. So how well do we know this piece of America, known as a beacon of hope that acts as a gateway to freedom? The story of Ellis Island on the East Coast and Angel Island in California are passed down through generations as the places where America saw a good portion of its immigration. The Statue of Liberty is iconic, New York State's most recognizable monument outside of Niagara Falls. And wherever you can imagine, you'll find the statue a pop culture sensation. But let's go to the beginning. What was New York's immigration center before Lady Liberty and Ellis Island became the gateway to the New World? Travel to Lower Manhattan, to the area of Battery Park, where you can take the ferry to Ellis Island and Liberty Island. You can also take the Staten Island Ferry. So why is it called Battery Park? To simplify it, the area contained artillery batteries. These were cannons and mortars set up in fortifications to protect New York City. The batteries were in response to the War of 1812 to defend New York City and the Hudson Bay from the British. So the British marched right into Washington, D.C. in 1814 and burned down a good portion of the public buildings. So many harbor cities like New York were quick to build fortifications and house tons of firepower. And we can still find remains all across the country, like the one right on the shores of Cape May, New Jersey. Across the Hudson Harbor, 4 batteries were constructed. The Southwest Battery on a man-made island across what is now known as Battery Park, Fort Gibson on Ellis Island, Fort Wood in what later became Liberty Island, and Castle William on Governor's Island, a smaller island between the Manhattan and Brooklyn Channel. The Southwest Battery was a 92-foot circular fortification made of red sandstone quarry that came from New Jersey. The sandstone being a strong mineral resistant to the changing weather. The fortification contained 28 cannons and a wooden bridge that crossed over the Manhattan. The War of 1812 ended with the final battle taking place in New Orleans in 1815. It left many batteries dormant. The Southwest Battery was deeded to the state of New York in 1823, and within a year, it saw many changes. The Southwest Battery was renamed into Castle Garden, and in 1824, restaurants and entertainment centers popped up in the area. By the 1940s, it had an opera house and a theater. In 1855, Castle Garden closed down and ended its run as an entertainment venue, being re-envisioned as an immigration landing depot. This was the first station of its kind built across America, signaling the new era and direction of a country at a crossroad. And just a note on the mass immigration, America was on the cusp of the Industrial Revolution, needing labor for the growing factories. It was a new country full of economic opportunities, where many of the old world countries were experiencing famine, rising taxes, crop shortages, and food scarcity. Prior to Castle Garden, America really didn't have an immigration policy. It varied from colony to colony and came with its own subsequent rules. Because of this ambiguity, the New York State Commissioners took it upon themselves to create a central depot for the nation, using the old Battery Fort at one of America's busiest seaports. Begin Castle Garden, the immigration depot. In the 35 years that it operated, between 1855 and 1890, Castle Garden saw over 8 million immigrants walk through its doors. 2 out of every 3 immigrants passed through this depot. But with the growth of a nation came the need for a larger immigration center, and the reputation for Castle Garden had gone south, with claims of it being unhygienic and a place of mistreatment for immigrants. Enter the new era of immigration in America and practically the world, with the first real symbol of the world's changing demographics, the Statue of Liberty. Lady Liberty's history starts with an idea by French author Edouard René de La Boulaye. La Boulaye was a careful observant of America's young politics and believed in the anti-slavery movement, which he respected the side of the Union and Abraham Lincoln's campaign during the Civil War. La Boulaye's observation of American policies shaped his writing and influence to adopt some of these freedoms in France. So he pitched a gesture of unity to this young nation, a friendly gift that took a decade to come to life. The ideas of La Boulaye were suppressed by Napoleon III, nephew of the famed Napoleon I, and the last monarch that ever ruled over France. The people of France funded La Boulaye's ideas to gift the United States with something that represented liberty. The Statue of Liberty was constructed between 1865 and 1886 to be placed at the smaller Bedloe Island. And the reasoning for this island to become the statue's home, Auguste Bartholdi, designer of the statue and friend of La Boulaye, surveyed the island and felt that the island was visible to every ship entering the New York harbor. This is where the statue's creation becomes interesting. It was constructed and displayed across several of the World's Fair, with the very first in America in the Centennial Exposition of Philadelphia. Now a children's museum that still honors the first piece of the statue in a playful way. The arm holding the torch was the first piece shipped for display. And at the Centennial Building in Philly, it's a fun, colorful replica that pays homage to Lady Liberty. So if you look at it, it's the Please Touch Museum of Philadelphia. This used to be a police headquarters, and at one time, it was a World Fair. So it doesn't match what it is now. It's a kids' interactive zone. It just blends in really well between the classical architecture and then the colorful styles like the Statue of Liberty behind me. It just makes it one of the most unique kids' places I've been to across the country. So what we don't notice is this is mostly made up of, you got it, pop culture icons, toys, license plates, really funky stuff. Hey, I think Rocky's up there.
37 countries.
And that's the Please Touch Museum right there. That's what we're in.
The other parts were demonstrated in other world fairs, like the Paris Universal Exposition in 1878. The entire statue was completed in Paris in 1884, with the pedestal beginning its construction in America during the same year. The statue was shipped in pieces to America and arrived in the New York harbor in 1885.
Building the towering figure and transporting it across the Atlantic was a monumental task.
An artist's sketch made in the 1870s reveals how the statue rose over the rooftops of Paris during its construction. The work was supervised by Frederick Auguste Bartholdi, brilliant French sculptor, who conceived the idea during a visit to New York. The hand and torch were sent to America in 1876 and shown at the Philadelphia Centennial Exposition, marking the 100th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Civil War veterans joined in the patriotic rallies held to raise funds for a pedestal for the statue. In 1885, work began on reassembling the figure, which had been dismantled in France for shipment to the United States in 210 packing cases. The head was completed last. Here, craftsmen working from the inside rivet copper sheeting over the framework of Liberty's 17-foot-high face.
Putting together the giant Lady Liberty brought in other designers, like Alexander Gustave Eiffel, famous for the Eiffel Tower. Eiffel laid out the iron framework, the spine of the statue, and its copper skin. The copper bronze exterior remained on the statue until 1906, when the air mixing with the copper had a chemical reaction known as verdigris, which becomes a further protective layer to the underlying metal to protect it from corrosion. The early visitors to Liberty Island were able to experience the full beauty of the statue before the copper bronze faded away into the notable green we see today. Lady Liberty stands at 151 feet tall, from shoes to torch. The pedestal is an additional 154 feet, making the total height of the statue an astonishing 305 foot tall. It was the tallest structure in America at the time of its debut. And upon its debut, millions lined up in Lower Manhattan to see the grand unveiling of the new symbol that represented freedom. To the immigrants arriving in New York City, they cried, they prayed, they danced and howled once they witnessed the statue. Statue of Liberty, land of freedom. On January 1st, 1892, the very first immigrant walked through the doors of Ellis Island. Annie Moore, a 17-year-old from Ireland, was accompanied by her two brothers to meet their parents in America.
First of all, let me ask you, what do you remember about that boat ride and everything over?
Oh, I was young. I started from the Berlin, from Germany in a boat.
Uh-huh.
From Germany we went to the France.
Uh-huh.
Then in France we changed another boat. I was 13 days in the boat. I was sick as a dog. I thought I'd never make it. Holy man, you go goofy, that's it.
Yeah.
So finally, when we come to the New York, I see the land. Then I say, oh, thanks to God, I see the land now. I'm in a safe side now. Liberty in New York, free country, liberty. When I see that, I say, boy, this is the country, I would like it. And that's why I'm here today.
Our story through Castle Garden and the Statue of Liberty bring me back to that bench in Jersey City, where I remained in thought about immigration and the many who walked through these doors of Ellis Island. Forward to the late 1700s, where the island had gone through several owners and was now in the hands of Sam Ellis. Ellis passed away, wanted to sell the island, but had no luck. So in his will, the island was to be passed down to his grandson. The junior Samuel passed away soon after childbirth, leading to Catherine Westervelt, the mother of Samuel and daughter of Sam Ellis, to give the island to her elder daughters. Passing down to the heirs, it wasn't until 1808 when the Ellis descendants agreed to a $10,000 settlement from New York to give the island to the United States government. It was in 1890 when the government had ordered to tear down the battery to create a new immigration station. The newly landscaped and remodeled island became the modern-day Ellis Island. Throughout its first day, Ellis Island received 700 immigrants, and by the time of its closure in 1954, 12 million had walked through the depot known as the Gateway to the New World. Even with the immigration depot of Castle Garden, individual states were still regulating immigration to the United States. Ellis Island was a federally operated building versus being run by the New York government like Castle Garden. Ellis Island was America's main immigration hub on the East Coast, with the year of 1907 seeing the peak immigration go through its gates. Approximately 1.25 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island. The conditions of the island were different than the smaller Castle Garden. Ellis Island has a nickname called the Island of Tears, but the immigrants were treated with courtesy. Immigrants went off to their new lives in America within only a couple of hours after arriving at the station. In modern times, Ellis Island is a museum that contains the history of immigration in America, and you can visit the receiving halls and study the stories of the endless migrants who walked through these gates. I've wanted to tell this story for some time, as someone fascinated with the Statue of Liberty, visiting Jersey City and Liberty State Park fueled that passion to give voice to the project. I'm Jose, and I greatly appreciate you coming along for the journey to learn more about Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. If you've enjoyed what you've seen today, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and share. If you want to know more about any of the 3 islands, I've left tons of links below from all my research. Until next time.